Over the past few years, we've seen a major shift in workplace culture. Zoom has replaced the conference room. Coffee break chats, they've been swapped with a #random Slack channel. Whiteboards are out, screen shares are in, and what was once passing by someone's desk is now a scheduled check-in call. Our world, maybe since 2020 for you, or maybe even before then, has really shifted from in-person to virtual in so many ways. And because that change is still so new compared to the previous more traditional in-person model, I think everybody's still working out the details of how to actually operate and run a business effectively when the team is hybrid or remote. So today, let's get into how to build the perfect communication system so that your team, no matter where they are or when they log in, can work together seamlessly to grow and scale your business. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the HerBusiness podcast. I'm Susie Daphnis, and today we're diving into one of the biggest changes so many of us has faced over the last few years, and that's the shift from in-person to remote or hybrid teams. Now, some of us may have seen this as a welcome change because there's more flexibility, there's no long commutes for anybody, and of course the cherished ability to take a meeting in one's pajama pants. But it also comes with pretty major adjustments, especially when it comes to effective communication. Now, instead of having everyone in the same room where you can eyeball each other, you're managing people who might be all over the world, each with a unique time zone. Now, here at HerBusiness, we've had remote and virtual team members for over 15 years. And our current situation is that we have 2 team members over in the United States, we have 2 team members in the Philippines, and then we have 4 team members in Australia, some of whom go into the office on certain days and then work virtually other days. In fact, most days there might only be 1 or 2 people in our physical office at any given time. So we're really a global team. But we've been able to create a system that keeps us all very connected, meeting deadlines and communicating with one another seamlessly despite different time zones. So in this episode, I'll share with you exactly how we go about it, and I'll explain how emojis, yes, I said emojis, have been one of the unseen backbones of keeping our Slack channel organized, because we all know how unbelievably chaotic Slack can get within the blink of an eye. Now, even if you don't use Slack, what you'll understand is how to have a communication system that's really effective, no matter where people are using it from. So when you have a hybrid or remote team, having a well-defined communication system is really essential. It's what keeps you productive, it keeps the morale high, and makes sure that every team member has that sense of connection and purpose that would naturally come with an in-person office. So first, let's talk about the 3 biggest challenges that come with having a hybrid or fully remote team. Each of these has come up for us as we transitioned from being more in person to hybrid, especially with our Sydney-based team, who could very well show up at our Sydney office, but everyone now has that sort of hybrid arrangement. And those 3 things have been dealing with different time zones, navigating information gaps, and maintaining a sense of connection as a team. And the first most glaring red flag that can come up with having a global team and a remote team is dealing with time zones. Now, it's likely the most intimidating factor that business owners come across when thinking about making the switch is, oh gosh, how do I deal with someone in Arizona needing to meet with someone in Manila when there's a 15-hour time difference? And I believe navigating time zones all starts with flexibility and being clear about expectations from the get-go. So if you're in the hiring process right now, make sure that you've stated the time zone that your team meetings will take place in, the time zones that you expect people to be working in. So you're not blindsiding anyone looking to join your team. So about 6 months ago, we hired a copywriter, and we specifically stated in the job description that we were open to hiring globally, but the new team member would need to be able to attend our daily huddles and weekly team meeting, along with having at least 4 hours of online overlap time with our Sydney team and our Manila team. And it hasn't been a problem for us because that was a clear expectation right off the bat. We only got applicants who knew that would work for their schedules and knew that that's what they were kind of signing up for. Now, on top of setting boundaries and expectations, The other essential piece to dealing with time zones is mastering asynchronous communication, so communication that doesn't happen in real time, and staying in tune with the rest of the team. Now, each team member should be so clear and well versed on their individual tasks as well as group campaigns that they know when things need to be done. So setting objectives with specific tasks well ahead of time so that no one is left working late at night or early in the morning to pick up slack for anyone else is so important. And you want to make it clear that urgent messages are to be labelled urgent. And typically, team members can wait until their workday starts to check back and respond to things. So not everything is urgent. So we have dedicated meeting times for questions, check-ins, and status updates on our projects because we know that messages or emails might not get an immediate answer because of the different time zones. So take our team members in the US, for example. They typically get started hours before the sun has come up in Australia, but they're not blowing up the Slack channel with urgent questions and clarifications because those questions and concerns have already been thought through, asked, dealt with well in advance of any deadlines. Now, all our team knows to bring things up in our daily huddles and to think ahead to what we might need from other team members and when we might need those things. And it's that foresight and ability to set up an asynchronous workflow that lets us manage time zones with rarely any mishaps. Now, the second biggest issue is that businesses typically face with hybrid teams is dealing with information gaps. Now, when you're not sitting in an office next to each other, it's easy for important details to get missed or for assumptions to be made. And sometimes remote work can lead to misunderstandings just because someone isn't fully in the loop. Now, we have to watch this because our Australian and Filipino team members work Australian Mondays, but our US team members don't come in until Tuesday Australia time, which is their Monday. So it's really important that we have documented systems and clear communication channels about where each project is at. And we do this in a few different ways. First, we always keep our task management system updated and specific. So we use an app called Teamwork to manage our workloads, and that has been a great platform for us. So each campaign or project gets its own folder, and each team member is assigned to specific tasks under that folder, and every project is briefed in detail at the outset. So if someone misses a huddle or a team meeting, they're not relying on word of mouth to get specifics on projects. It's already outlined in full in Teamwork, so our team can pop in there to see what's been done, what's been briefed, and what others might be waiting on, and the deadlines that are relevant for them. So they can manage their own schedule. Now, another way we keep updated with the different schedules is we keep almost all communication in Slack. So while there might be some communication going through email, it's really actually quite rare. We try and keep all communications inside of Slack for everyone to see. And rather than direct messaging a team member about an update, we'll put it in the dedicated thread. Now, we have a very robust structure on how we create a campaign inside of Slack, or how we name our folders, how people respond. And so everyone's kind of operating off the same way of using the tool. So rather than direct messaging a team member about an update, we would put it in the dedicated thread. So if another team member needs to get caught up on what's going on a particular lead magnet or a particular workshop or campaign, they know where all the communication is. So there's no jumping around your inbox looking for being copied in on emails. It's all where it needs to be and all very transparent. And this really helps with those information gaps that are so common with hybrid teams, and it keeps everyone on the same page. So let's jump into the third challenge that businesses face when going remote, and that's losing a sense of connection. So this one is so common, and there are countless studies out there that show that your team's mental health can really be affected by going remote. And the rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness are significantly higher, it turns out, in remote workers. So this is something to really take note of. So how can you, as the business owner, cultivate a culture that still encourages, uplifts, and keeps your team positive? How do you keep them connected to the shared goals of your business and excited about the next steps your business is taking? And I believe a huge part of maintaining that culture is taking the time to connect. When you have scheduled meetings, it's easy to get right to business. You can forget that when virtual. you're not getting those 5 minutes water cooler chats or lunchroom conversations. So schedule some time in. So once a week on a Wednesday, my team meets for an extended time. And the first part of those team meetings is to check in with one another, give life updates, chat with each other a little bit, really connect on a personal basis. And we have a format and a structure for that so that it happens within the time frame. And you don't want to forget about the importance of team building just because you're not seeing one another, because your team members need to be connecting with each other as well. And so those weekly team meetings for us are an opportunity for everyone to just be real, be there, be a little more relaxed, talk about life in general, as well as then talking about our projects. And we make a point to have that time to celebrate birthdays, work anniversaries, as we call their work anniversaries, and have that weekly meeting. So we go around and there's a couple of prompts. I'll let you behind the scenes of our meetings. So when we start our meeting, the first prompt is to say what they feel like saying. And it gives everybody the chance to give a life update or let us know how their week's been, or just a little weather update from wherever they are. Our team in Manila has had some really, really bad weather, so we wanted to hear about that their families were safe, that sort of thing. Another person might be talking about, the weekend they just had, or their daughter's second birthday, etc. And they're feeling great, or they're feeling tired because they haven't slept because the dog, was keeping them up, or whatever it is, right? Now, it might sound trivial, but these are just human moments. And so we start with that, what we call our what I feel like saying, which you can basically say anything you feel like saying is just about checking in with. It's basically like asking, how are you doing? Then we have a second prompt, which is all about acknowledgements. And we go around saying either what we would like to be acknowledged for or what we want to acknowledge about someone else. And this gives us the opportunity and the time to actually appreciate what we're all working on rather than being on to the next thing right away. And I know sometimes in this acknowledgement process, we could have done 3 events the week before and we're looking at the project that's the week after. And we have, that's an opportunity for us to say, hey, you know what? We did great last week. I want to acknowledge this person for doing this task. I want to acknowledge these people for rallying around and helping me, etc., before we move on to the next thing. And anchoring our wins, celebrating our wins, is such an important part of staying connected as a team. And I found that this structure is incredibly valuable when it comes to that sense of connectedness that the team feels. And as a side benefit, it helps loads with work-related communication. It's easier for a team member to reach out to others or ask for a project update if that natural human connection is the basis of everything and we're not just focused on tasks. All right, now that we've addressed those big 3 challenges for managing a remote or hybrid team, let's get into some core components of creating a great communication system. Now, we're talking again today about systems. You might have noticed the last couple of episodes have also been about different types of systems in your business. And that's because right now inside the HerBusiness network, the whole community is focused on up-leveling their systems, whether they're systems related to their finances, their marketing, their teams, their communications, etc. So, when it comes to communication systems, first you have to have the right tools. And there are so many options out there, and you can get different tools to try out, do a trial, have the go, see how they work for you and work for your team. And once you've found something that kind of works for you, my recommendation is that you stick with it and that everybody really understands that system. Tools are an incredibly important hybrid part of your hybrid workflow. Your team members should know exactly what part of your tech stack, so the technology you use, that they need to use for various tasks. Now, as I mentioned, we use Slack for just about all communication. We use Zoom for our team huddles, our meetings or one-on-ones, and we use Teamwork for project management. But then we also use Google Drive for our documents and file keeping, and Dropbox for any content, graphics, images, and we use a tool called Descript for podcast and video editing. Now, there's other specialist technology that some team members use, but these are the technologies that many team members touch. Now, not every team member needs access to things like Descript or WordPress, but each person knows the tools that they need to get their job done. So having a handful of trusted tools that everybody is comfortable with keeps everything organized. So people aren't working in silos. Now, everybody knows where to find the things they need, who to ask if they need help, and where they should put created assets. So if I talk about Dropbox or our Google Drive, for example, when we set up a project in our project management system, the way the project is set up in Dropbox and in Google Docs and the way things are named all mirror each other so that it makes sense. And we do it the same way for every project so that people know where to find things. The next tip is to have really clear and accessible documentation of everything. So your hybrid team needs to have shared knowledge for the policies you have, the frequently asked questions, the workflows, the funnel diagrams if you're doing marketing and you're doing campaigns, and for those resources to be available for everyone to reference when they need them and for them to know where to find them. So that's another reason we keep everything accessible on Slack. So while the idea of having every single message alert team member might seem an avalanche, it actually isn't like that. Like, you only tag people in the things that they need to see, but there's a place for people to go to be kept in the loop. And if you use Slack, like we use Slack, those messages are going to be sorted into very specific threads, and I'll tell you more about that soon. Now, the other essential part of great communication is setting up yourself and your team for consistency and clarity with meetings. And when you're working remotely, it's easy to slip into meeting fatigue where there are too many meetings and not enough time to actually do the work. That's why we're really intentional about when we meet and what we cover. And so we have a few different types of meetings to be clear about what meetings I'm talking about. So we have our daily huddle. Now, our daily huddle is quick and to the point. It's usually no longer than 20 minutes. And here, each team member who is working that day, because we're a hybrid team, and not everybody works on the same days. So in that 20 minutes, we go over our priorities and immediate urgent things that are needed. Right? So here's what I'm working on today. Here's what I completed yesterday. Here's what I'm waiting on from you. We move on. Then once a week, we have that longer team meeting that I mentioned earlier where we connect more, we get into our weekly statistics, we do project updates, different team members report on their area of responsibility. And then I'll typically have a one-on-one with different people on the team. So I might meet with Robin, our event coordinator, about our events. I might meet with our copywriter, Esther, about the copy and the different copy projects that we have coming up, etc. I might meet with Liz about customer service or frequently asked questions for something we've got coming up. And so these meetings all come with a structured plan and agenda so we stay focused and they don't end up going down too many rabbit holes. And here's the thing, when you have an agenda, the meeting isn't just more efficient, it's also more productive. And everybody knows what they need to come to the meeting with and what they want to walk away with. And no one attends a meeting that they don't need to be a part of, that they could just read up on later. Now, I want to talk about building a culture where that open communication is encouraged and not stifled. Now, in a hybrid setup, it's really important that everybody feels comfortable speaking up and sharing their thoughts, especially when we don't have those in-person cues that help you to read the room. And that's why having feedback loops is so important. This is so important. I said important in two consecutive sentences because it's that important. So that's another reason our acknowledgement process, our what I feel like saying process, part of our team meetings matter so much, because it's an opportunity to share what's working well and then highlight areas that might not be working so well. It gives members the chance to be seen and heard and lent on, and that completion by celebrating something, that is a feedback loop. Okay, and we close that loop of that project before we move on. And so celebrating your team's wins and recognizing each other's achievements is such an important part of what you could be doing. And I found it so easy for achievements to go unnoticed, even for myself. And sometimes I have to be pulled up. And this can happen when you're not all in the same room. But taking the time to recognize those things really makes a big difference. Now let's move on to my number one holy grail tip for managing a hybrid and asynchronous team. And it has two parts: keeping your communication organized and finding a way for your team to acknowledge that they have seen a message. Now, this is where Slack comes in for us, but whatever tool you're using, this is going to relate. Have you ever sent out an instruction or a request and it's crickets? And you have someone say, oh, well, it's done when you ask about it, but you actually didn't know. So part of your brain is still trying to figure out if that thing's been done, if they even saw the message, etc., etc. So This is where our Slack method comes in, and here's exactly how we organize our team communications. So every big aspect of the business has a channel inside of Slack. So we have channels for our Facebook advertising, for our general marketing, channels for our workshops, for our team announcements, for video production, right? Anything that's big. And then inside these channels, we don't have free-for-all communication. And this is where most companies lose the organization and misuse this tool. So inside of channels, we have bolded, titled threads. There aren't any general messages just posted randomly in a channel. Each message is a reply to a particular thread. Or you start a new thread if it's a new topic, and then in that thread is where all the back and forth communication can happen. But generally when we set up a channel, we set up the threads because we know that we're going to, if we're running a workshop, there's going to be a thread for administration, for marketing emails, for SMS messages, for fulfillment emails, for slides, for all the different areas that are constants that we would put in project management, we map across. And so then the communications, the back and forth can go in the relevant thread. So everything is where it needs to be. Everything is organized. If you need to find what the team is saying about the social media plan for a certain campaign, you would go into the correct channel, find the thread that mentions social media for that campaign, and then go to the replies for that thread. For example, this very podcast you're listening to right now has a specific thread in our marketing channel. So we have dozens of differently labeled titled threads for different podcast episodes or social media plans or any other marketing. And all the links to our documents, recordings, show notes for this particular episode are living in their home under the replies for Her Business Podcast, episode number 280 in our marketing channel. It's a simple structure, but it saves hours of wasted time and headaches. You can easily find what you need. You can have full conversations without worrying about taking over a Slack channel feed, and you have all your projects and communications nicely organized. And the best part, this is, I think, the fun part. This is where our emoji system comes in. So because we have this Slack system, it's essential to make sure that everybody has actually seen the message that they were tagged in. So say you tag someone in the reply to a thread inside of a channel. Gosh, I just lost my spot. And here's the best part, and I think one of the fun parts of using Slack, and that is where our emoji system comes in. And whether you use Slack or not, I think you'll find this interesting and useful. Because we have this Slack system, it's essential to make sure that everybody has actually seen the message that they're tagged in. And here's the best part. This is where our emoji system comes in. And I think this is really fun. And whether you use Slack or whatever channel you use, I think you'll find this really useful. Because we have this Slack channel system, it's essential to make sure that everybody has actually seen the messages they were tagged in. So say you tag someone in a reply to a thread inside a channel. You don't know if that person has seen your message. Maybe they saw it. Maybe they've done it and maybe it got lost or, it was an oversight. They completely forgot. We've solved this roadblock by using emoji reactions. And here's what I mean. We have this little code or key for our internal communications. For example, to acknowledge that you've seen a message, we use the thumbs up emoji. Like, got it. It doesn't mean we've done it. It doesn't mean I'm working on it right now. It means I've seen it. It's on my radar. To say, I'm going to look into this. In our emoji language, we do the 2 eyeballs emoji. To say the task is completed, we use the green check mark emoji. If something is urgent, the red exclamation points can be included in the message. Very simple system, but it closes communication loops. I know, okay, they've seen it, they're looking into it, they've got it, they're working on it, or, that's completed. Do you know how powerful the completed one is? I can stop thinking about that. You can stop thinking about that because you know it's handled. If something's urgent, there's an exclamation point. So what is the system for you? There's one more we use, and that is the prayer hands or the uplift hands. there to say thank you. Okay? So I might put a request, you give me the thumbs you're working on, then you give me a green check that it's done, and I might give you the prayer hands. Now, that all happens very, very quickly, and it seems simple, but what's happening is communication is happening. You know that it's landing. You know things are getting done. It's like a little language that we have internally so that we can make sure that everyone's kept in the loop and we don't miss any important messages. Now, since we started using this method, we've had such a change in catching things that would sometimes fall through the cracks. And now, if you don't use an acknowledgement system in your communications, I highly encourage it. I know it's been a game changer for my team and lets us get all our assets, campaigns, and launches out without feeling like we're juggling tasks and without people getting stressed and people getting frustrated that people aren't responding to them. So as we close out, I want to encourage you, if you're either looking to go hybrid or you already got remote team members, but things fall through the cracks or things aren't working quite as well, with the right tools and the right systems like the ones I've mentioned here today, you can absolutely create a team that works just as well, if not better, than an in-house team. And even though I know some people really dislike the remote working model, I think it also comes with a lot of opportunity, advantages, and beauty. By going remote, you can expand the talent pool when you're hiring. You can build a team of the best of the best. You can have a business that's diverse and people bring their own experiences into their roles, and you can expand your own network and make international connections. As long as you have the right systems in place, you can build an incredible remote or hybrid team that's efficient, connected, and passionate about your mission. Now, if you would like more resources to grow, to manage, and to scale your business, we have a great community of women business owners over at HerBusiness. Our beautiful members attend our events, they learn from our masterclasses, they even come to our in-person retreats, and they connect with themselves and each other inside of the network to grow more successful businesses. And if you would like to connect with a community of like-minded business owners, successful women who want to be more successful, the HerBusiness Network might be the place for you. Now, we only open up membership a couple of times a year, but you can get on the wait list now by heading to herbusinessnetwork.com. I'll put that in our show notes as well. And I love doing this show for you. I appreciate you listening, and I love it when I get a comment from you on what you enjoyed or what you implemented. It really makes my day. And I want to give a shout out to Monica, and I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, Kamutis. She listened to episode 275, which was about how community, commitment, and courage took me up the summit. And it was the story of how I hiked the height of Everest in an event called 29029 Everesting. And Monica said, wow, there's nothing like shared goals and community to push you through those moments of doubt. Thanks for sharing your journey. Well, thank you, Monica, who I don't know, for leaving that review. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave me a rating or review, and I'm really happy to give you a shout out. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on Instagram. You'll find us at HerBusiness. And if you're not already following us on Instagram, follow us because we offer really great business tips. If you're not already following this show, hit follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. We have more great episodes coming up, stories inspired by incredible and successful female entrepreneurs. So be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time right here on the HerBusiness podcast. Bye for now.